Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's December 1st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and this is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Friday, so um, we'll be done for the week. We'll be back again to start again Monday. Again, I'm probably going to take the last couple of weeks of the year off, so we got a couple more weeks here till that comes up. But just to kind of start giving you a heads up, I probably will take off um, the last 2 weeks of the year. And probably a day, maybe a day or so. I haven't looked at the calendar to see where the first falls, but I'll probably take a day or so off in the first of the year, depending on what day everything falls on. Like I said, I haven't looked at the calendar yet. But anyway, let's get to today's chart. You can see on the daily chart, we turned down right at the trend line. We'd sold off considerably, but we bounced off the previous resistance did act as support, and we recovered about half of that. Still, we traded slightly down today from yesterday, and definitely traded off the highs of today. So whether or not we're going to turn down from here, it's yet to be seen. But so far, that trend line's holding. So we'll just have to see what tomorrow brings, and how we. It'll probably give us a better hint of what next week might look like. So anyway, there it is. Let's flip over to the intraday chart, and we'll go through the 2,000 tick chart, and we'll go through the trades and wrap the day up. There's not a lot of trades today, but there's a couple of good ones in there. But we'll go through the trades, and let's flip over. Okay, here's today's chart, and you can see we had a couple of high volatility items in here that I marked out. And we were trending up here, and this, by the time you really could trade, we were just kind of working sideways. And then prices sold off real strongly. Um, I'm guessing that's on the manufacturing news there. And then you can see we recovered. This is, I mean, really, you can trade this, but even though this is an uptrend, you can see we're above, below, above, below, above, below, above. And whenever you see prices swinging above and below the EMA consistently like that, you can trade that both ways. So draw your little trends and channels, and even though you probably could have worked this into a range, but there's a little spike and very slight channel here. This is mostly just sideways stuff. So if you were trading this truly as a range, you would have missed probably the best trades in here, because you had been trading into the midline and things like that right at the midline, where if you traded the channel and followed the channel rules on these, then you were still looking for prices to go higher here and here, and lower on a couple of these other spots. But yeah, not a lot of trades today, because there just wasn't a lot of really good price action. It was mostly this kind of jumbled sideways to slightly up. This is an upward bias here, even though I would say that you can trade this both ways. As I said already, it's still got an upward bias to it. And you can see the trend lines in play. You can see we didn't really come back much to the trend line. Or did I just say trend line there? If I did, I meant midline. You can see the midlines in play, and you can see we did come back to the trend line, but only once. And we had a couple of turn downs up here, but you don't want to be trading this up here. You need to get a trend going that you'll trade before you actually go short there. So anyway, let's zoom in here. This won't take long, because there's just not a lot going on today. And you can see how we were working sideways here, and we really were just kind of hung in this midline on the upper side. But we actually had an overshoot on this green channel, which led to a turn down, and we really had two legs down here. So after those two legs, it's always possible that something else could happen. You could see we didn't quite even get to a measured move 2 times, and that usually means you're going to kind of rally on up again. And you would expect prices to try to retest this high too. Sometimes when you get an overshoot like this, you don't get a retest, but maybe that's not even an overshoot. Maybe it's just a 2-tiered channel. To me, it really looks like an overshoot, but you could argue there's 2 tiers there. But to me, that looks like an overshoot, and you can kind of see how the midline tends to fit in there too. So it looks like an overshoot to me. That's the way I played it. So, but we had our two legs back, and there's clear support there, and we got a little double bottom, and it actually broke lower and reversed and turned up. I would not trade that on the engulfing bar. Wait to make sure this closes very positive. If it does, I like going long there. Your hope is that it goes on and makes a new high. It doesn't, but that's still a very nice quick move that you might even get a runner on. And depending on, you could have got anywhere from 3 to 7 points on a runner there. And of course, right at the midline there, it turns back down again. There is a reversal pattern right here. I did not mark it because you're not really looking for a reversal here. Maybe you say, okay, I'm just going to trade that as a failure, especially because it broke lower and turned up. So when it turned back down there, you knew you probably had a trap. I didn't mark that one. It's a little more advanced. It's you really need to know what you're doing there. But you could argue for it to be green. It's definitely aggressive. I mean, there's plenty of room to scalp out there. That's the key before reaching these lows. And you can see we bounced again. Now, this is too congested here to take that trade, and I just don't really see anything that would tempt me to jump in there. You might take this second entry short here. I didn't originally mark it because it's so close to 9 o'clock. So I don't think I would take that. I mean, there's maybe 10 minutes there, and your hope is that you can get in quickly before the news. So I mean, I'm just going to take it back off. I didn't put it on there to begin with because it's just not enough time there. It's really risky to, and you can see too, there's like 2 points there, so you just do have enough room to really scalp out of that. Of course, there's plenty of room back to the EMA, but there was just enough room to get out of there. You had a few ticks to spare, but I just think it's too close to the 9 o'clock news. And you see what would have happened if you didn't scalp out, you would have got stopped out before it went lower. And that's the problem. And just stay out right there. Definitely don't try to trade this stuff. And then it looks like we've kind of settled back down here. We do break lower. And I traded this as a lower high. It kind of confirms that trend line. We're coming down through there, and you touched it once. You really touched it twice there and then made a lower high. But we don't quite get there, but here and here we do. And so that pretty much tells you that trend line's valid. And so I like going short one tick. It's rare that you're going to go short that close to the low. But with this news item and this trend line holding it, and if you look at it, I mean, it's possible, you can see a little two-legged correction there. So you're getting a target way down here. So there's plenty of room to go. And the other way you would look for a possible target down here would be to measure the width of that, and then your other target would have been right in here. But this was probably going to be your more accurate, that leg, and then you get the next leg. And you see it actually we got another couple of pushes down. But I don't see any other opportunity to trade this. There's a triple test here, but unfortunately it's too neutral of a bar. And then we finally reverse. And you get a little spike up, and you come back, you get a first entry, pull back, get a second entry, and that kind of confirms that trend line right there. I like going long right there. The problem is it just kind of gets hung at that resistance, and if you draw let's do this. We already got our line there. Let's just extend it over. So you want to have room to get out, but that's why that kind of precludes taking this trade. There's too big a chance it pulls back to test that. It doesn't end up doing that. It actually breaks lower and fails and turns up, but I don't think you can enter on this failure here. I don't think it doesn't set up at the EMA. It doesn't even come back and test the breakout area. And that's definitely strong resistance. As you can see, it held for almost an hour there, really. And prices run up, find a high. There's a little bit of a trap right there. If you had room to get out here, maybe you take that trade, but this was a fairly strong move up. And so it makes me nervous going short there. But it's one you might take on that because it is a failure. It's not a it's not really a reversal, but it's a failure. So maybe you take it, and you don't get another chance to really enter. Drops down, working sideways here, too congested. I wouldn't be looking for a long yet anyway because that trend line's clearly in play. So let's wait and see if we get a new low. And you can see we do get a break, couple legs up, actually one more push. This one's tempting. Notice first entry, breaks lower, turns up. So when it breaks higher right there, that's a second entry. The problem is you've already got a break and a couple of legs up, and we actually pushed through the EMA, so it's a chance you could get trapped here. The other thing is it gaps. Notice how it closes on its high and opens on its low and keeps going. It's doubtful you could get in that trade quick enough, most likely. So it's just another one that you're probably better off to skip. And then we just kind of work. That's too congested. Don't try to enter that. There is a lower high right there, but it's really congested. I wouldn't try to enter that. There's also a second entry right here, but again, I don't. I mean, it's one you might mark green, but I'd probably skip it and wait for something better. And of course, this is just sideways with a failed breakout. I didn't like marking this one either because of that midline right there. Actually, you probably wouldn't have had this trend line yet, and you are looking for a new low, but it just looks so congested. There's support there, right across here. Regardless, you can see where that bar bounced and that bar bounced. So even if you don't have the midline there, there's the midline on the actual range that you have to be concerned about. And there's not much room right there between that midline and that bar. So, but yeah, you probably wouldn't have had this channel here yet because we haven't made these swing lows yet. And so really right here, you're just still looking for a retest of the highs over here going on up. So anyway, but this is played out, and now we're looking for a retest of the lows. And you don't. This is where it gets dicey. And somebody will ask me this question, or they have asked me this question similar to this before. Okay, we're looking for a retest of this high on this green one, but yet we're looking for a retest of this low on the khaki one. Which one do we play? Well, you don't know. That's why when it starts chopping sideways, and you can see all the confusion and the price action suddenly, we were trending clearly up, trending clearly down, and then all of a sudden we're just kind of prices don't know what to do, and so that's why it's better off just to skip that right there. It does run on down. It would have been a nice trade. The other reason I don't like taking that one, if it hadn't been for this inside bar that makes an equal low, and it just would have broke lower, maybe you take that trade. But once you see that inside bar and an equal low, then that tells you they really struggle to break it lower. We better just wait. And yeah, you missed a good trade, but you followed the rules. And then we run down here, and this is where I would draw my trend line off that first swing or so, and then you actually get a triple test here. You just draw a flat line if you don't have the trend line yet or whatever. And that's a very bullish bar. Just go long one tick above it. And then we try to go short once. We push up here, we try to go short twice. So this is somewhat of a reversal here, but it does look a little congested. We didn't close on the other side of the EMA, which I'd prefer to see on a reversal. So it's still a failure, but it's not necessarily a good reversal setup. So I marked it green, and it turned out to be a nice trade, but it's a little bit aggressive. So I mean, it's really hard. I mean, we're just swinging back and forth, and this really just set the trend line. So you're just, you probably want to see prices come back to it one more time, or get some more price action here, working off the midline and the high to prove that it's right. Which it's hard to still really know at that point. So we run on up, we turn down right off the highs, make a new low. This is basically a double bottom, so it's like a first entry, second entry. It looks a little sideways and congested, but there's plenty of room down there to this low and even the next low. So maybe you take that one. And then you get a failed break higher, a failed break lower. I didn't draw it, but there's a little range there. Sometimes I forget to draw these because I can see them without really drawing them. But if you're new to this, always draw your stuff to make sure you can see it. And you can see right there, it was a chance to go short. There's too much stem here to go long, and there's a higher low here, but it's right into the highs, so you can't go long there. It breaks out. You might take that trade back on the breakout. There's still plenty of room, but generally I'd wait on a lower high, and you can't trade that because it's right into the EMA. And then you try to go higher again, so there's another failure. If it breaks below that bar right there, it's another failure. Again, it doesn't set up on the right side of the EMA like I would really like it. You got the midline in there to be concerned about as well. So, and you would think prices will probably try to make a new high on this here after on this channel, this green channel, after making a good in the closeout side. So there's a chance. Once again, it's prices are going lower, but you would expect they're going to try to go higher. And then there's also the fact we just came off the highs, so you would expect prices to go to the lows. So it gets real hard to read this. And that's the kind of things you're looking at when you're trying to figure out the context of the chart. Should we be going lower? Should we be going higher? Well, this is played out, but on the bigger picture, the blue channel, if you have it, is telling me we should be going lower. But instead, we're working higher. And we do have it breaking a new low. But then we don't get a new high here, and we're still working lower. Well, we should be going lower, most likely. But we might still get a new high here. And we ended up turning up, making a new high. And so that's what I'm talking about when it gets a little dicey and a little hard to know what prices are doing, because they're not following general price action movements and rules the way that prices usually move. So, but prices do bounce here, push right through the EMA, pull back once, pull back twice. That's not a good reversal, failure, or whatever. But then suddenly you get a second entry. Notice the new high, first entry, turns back down, and when it breaks above right there, second entry long. And that's a great signal bar right off the EMA, right at the key entry point. I like going long there. And then you actually get a first entry short, second entry short. So if it breaks higher right there, you're going to get a failure. And then there's your move all right back up to the top again. And so you got to close outside a new high, and it actually pushes one more time to a high, and then it turns down. This is your signal bar here, so no short. Even if you wanted to be a little aggressive, you can't take that one. There's a lower high here, right into the EMA. Don't take that. See if you get a failure, which you do, but it's not back to the trend line. And then by the time it ends, it's already to the other side of the little channel. Would have worked still, but sometimes it'll bounce right there on you. So, and that took us into 230. I don't think I would go long here. This looks too sideways. It's so late in the day. Why risk it? We're overdue to come to the low side too, even though it goes right back to the highs again after bouncing off the midline. So this was starting to get a little stronger until right before the close, which it sold off. And that might have been people just profit taking or whatever. Some of these longs that got in here early, maybe profit taking, maybe they're day traders, whatever. But there it is. And not a lot of trades. There's a few in here. You just had to be, usually the mornings are the best, and today it was a pretty weak morning, and you had a few trades from about 10 o'clock on. So anyway, I hope everybody had a good week. I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm going to wrap up this week. We'll be back again to do it Monday, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.